Hello and welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. So, Graham, excited about this. We've got another returning guest.
Oh, I am so excited to see Gio Marcus back with us. She is brilliant. What can I say about Gio Marcus apart from she's 43 miles away from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the thing is about them is they now own my football club, Leeds United. So we have connection.
Oh, Graham, so they're going to be changing the shape ball they play with next season.
We
might make a difference.
But Gio, it's so nice to see you back.
Thank you. Yeah, the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, all of the sports clubs are moving to Las Vegas, so we have to hold on to what we have.
Are they really? Oh, right. Okay. Well, I mean, they're based in, is it Santa Clara? Is that the right word for it? Santa Clara?
Santa Clara, your guess is as good as mine.
All right. We're talking nonsense here, but the nice thing is you live in a lovely part of the world, and all I would say is that you are a celebrity copywriter, because that's what we talked about last time. But when we encourage you to come back on, you thought it might be a good idea to talk about live launches. So you're gonna have to tell everybody who's listening what a live launch is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we can talk about live launches. We can talk about evergreen launches. Happy to speak to both. But a live launch, it's just when you're doing something in real time, as opposed to an evergreen funnel that just sort of lives there and people can join in any time. But the nice thing about a live launch is you can really get into, drum up a lot of excitement for the event that's happening live. You've got a chance to do a lot of interaction with your audience, Q&As, things like that. So it's really a great way to drum up excitement for your upcoming program or product that you're selling. And
Graham, as we record this, then you at the moment have a 3-day summit that is launching in, I think, about 3 days' time. It goes live. So is that what you'd call a live launch? Something like that? I
don't know. I mean, I guess it is. The actual interviews are pre-recorded, but technically they are available on that day, one of the days of the 3-day summit. So yeah, I guess it's live.
Yeah, absolutely. That counts. So the live launch just refers to the fact that it's happening on a certain day, a certain time. People will have to join in during that time in order to view the content, but the actual content can be pre-recorded. So it's a little bit of a hybrid model.
Yeah, well, this is very much a hybrid model. I don't think I could have survived a full day of live interviews. I think I'd have
that's a lot.
Botched it. It is, and plus there's other benefits there, because we did secondary interviews where. If you buy an all-access pass, you can get into a private members area to sort of consume them. So we've kind of done that, and so I'm now starting to think about, well, how do I approach making those even more appealing to people? So so in other words, you can get the free stuff on that particular day on Monday, but you can't get it on Tuesday because I'm taking that page down. And then there's another lot on Tuesday, and there's another lot on Wednesday. So, but the bonus interviews, you have to pay a little bit of money to get to them. So that's the
model is a great model, and you can turn that into an evergreen model as well. So the nice thing about live launches is that they convert really well into evergreen with a little bit of tweaking.
Are you and Bailey Richard, are you joined at the hip? Because I don't know if you know Bailey Richard, but she does a lot of these summit funnels for Russell Brunson, who runs funnels. And Bailey's been coaching me from afar to try stop me from making too many mistakes along the way. And so the whole idea of but Bailey probably will become a future guest, but we'll see. But it seems to be a certain overlap. Have you ever crossed paths?
No, I haven't. I know Russell Brunson, but I haven't met Bailey before. I do try to meet other copywriters and connect, because it's great to have industry folk to hobnob with and share war stories.
Well, I mean, when it comes to hobnobbing, from a copywriter's point of view, I mean, maybe Dan Kennedy might have a few more high level connections, but you're in the sort of top league there, aren't you?
Well, I do what I can. I've been lucky to work with some excellent clients, and that's been a super, super blessing. So, a lot of my clients have written New York Times bestsellers. They've been on TV, all the TV shows. They've done the whole magazine circuit. So they're a lot more forward facing than me. I kind of like to think of myself as the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So you're writing copy. So where do live launches come into your world, Gio?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients have live launches, whether they be summits or sometimes they're high ticket programs. For example, anything from a $2,000 to $5,000 program that they're selling, sometimes more. And a live launch, they'll often do an event for a couple days, perhaps. So maybe like a 4-day live event, maybe a 7-day live event, summits, things like that, where exactly what you described, Graham, with the summits. There's free content on a certain day, and then it's up for 24 hours. Then it comes down, and then the next day's content is available. And if they want to be able to catch it all, then they have to purchase a package. So that's so sometimes the free content is available for purchase. Sometimes the free content leads into a larger package. It really just depends on how they've set it up.
I'm really interested in this idea of turning this live launch into an evergreen, because it seems to me that that's an option for me. Well, for a certain length of time. In my particular case, I think some of the content might change with time, and so it might be good for another 6 months, for instance. But the other side of the year, then I think I might be thinking about getting new interviews, because basically after a time, their proposition might change, etc. But nonetheless, a reasonable length of evergreen. I think I don't know what's several months worth of evergreen. It's not quite evergreen, is it? You're the copywriter. Come on, you must come up with some sort of idea, Gio. I mean, what do we call it if it's only about another 6 months?
Well, it still counts as evergreen if you're driving traffic to it, and it's available for purchase when after the live event's over. So
right.
You're in the clear.
You've come along just at the right time.
You could be running ads to it or promoting it on your social media, and having people be able to opt into it and purchase the free content. Maybe they can view it, all of it all at once, but then they've only got 2 or 3 days to do so, and then they would have to purchase to be able to listen to all the interviews. So that's an option for you.
Yeah, this is a sort of thing that you, from a copy. One thing that you said earlier was this idea of questions and answers with people. So those people who perhaps signed up for the free registration on mine, for instance, I was thinking immediately, oh my, maybe I should have had a few interactions with them already as they're waiting for day one, which is Monday next week. So it's about another 3 or 4 days. So basically, is that something that you would do? Would you in some way of engage somebody prior to the event starting?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a great time to be interacting with people. You can send them to videos or other resources to be able to get them warmed up for the event, so that they're not having, so that they don't sign up 3 weeks in advance of something and they don't hear anything from you until the event goes live. Definitely, however you can interact with them. Yeah.
Well, I was advised to do a sneak peek, which we chose one of the interviews, which and I know another string to your bow is you've got a sort of a background in fine art. Do you know? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I have a MFA, a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Nonfiction. Right. So a glorified storyteller.
Well, this is actually you could argue fine art, but the sneak peek that I did was with a guy called James Matthewson. And James, where does he live? He lives out in Jersey, in the Channel Islands, near France. And basically James has the rights to something called Pets Rock. And if you imagine it like a little dog or a cat, and they've been fashioned into Donald Trump, for instance, so it's kind of got a sort of a gingerish hair, and it looks like Donald Trump. It's quite magical. And there's one that looks like Ziggy Stardust, and there's all kinds of different sort of either a celebrity or an artist or something. But these Pets Rock characters, now what James is doing is creating NFTs based on them, but also turning them into real art that if you buy it, you can stick it on your wall. But there's other ways of actually consuming it through NFTs and so forth. So you can have one on your phone to show everybody, hey, look, here's the dog Donald Trump, that I bought for $10,000 or whatever. So basically that's his thing at the moment. And I just thought that would be an interesting one to share, because it's not, from an alternative investment point of view, it's quite unusual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that art is I haven't listened to your summit. It hasn't gone live yet, but I was so curious as to what you're covering. So in terms of alternative investments, NFTs are definitely one of the new ones that has popped up in recent years. It's sort of, in some ways, it sort of falls under the category of AI to me, and all this new technology that's been flooded into the market in the last couple of years. So
surely you don't feel left behind, do you, with AI at your age?
No, I don't. I mean, AI is a powerful tool. It's good for idea generation. In terms of being able to actually write the copy, I wouldn't rely on it 100% because, you really have to be able to feed it intelligent prompts in order for it to produce anything of value. But it can be really good for certain things like coming up with curriculum for a group program or generating ideas for blog posts, but it's all based on the quality of the prompts. So, you have to, the source of the prompts have to be informed. So sometimes you have to have, 10,000 words of a prompt in order to get it to produce a 1,200 word blog post.
Wow. The more and more I hear about prompts, I just think of prompts a bit of a longer instruction with as much of what you want in it, but I've tried, but I certainly haven't bought any of these.
I actually had my socks blown off at lunchtime with this. We were, again, this goes around a live launch that we've got going on. We're actually running a boot camp at the moment, Grow CFO and Finance Transformation. So it's gone through everything we talked about, except this is genuinely live because people are turning up for a series of Zoom workshops.
Right.
We needed a case study for the one that we're running on Monday. And we asked ChatGPT to write us a case study. I'm thinking, nah, this won't work. No, we wanted it to give us we're talking about re-engineering finance processes. So we asked ChatGPT to give us a finance process that had loads of opportunity for improvement that we could use as a case study in a training course.
Right.
It came back with 2 pages worth of information. It detailed the processes, which was an expense processing system, which was completely manual. A member of staff fills in expense claim form, sends it to a manager approves manually, sends it to accounts. And it then came up with a whole list of the things that were wrong with this process that needed improving. Which is pretty good.
Right.
With minimum of tweaking, it's in the course for next Monday. It's exactly what we wanted.
Excellent. Yeah. The one thing ChatGPT to be aware of is just, making sure that it's accurate, because it can come back with information and it might look good, but you have to be able to verify that it's, certain things.
It's very good at making things up when it doesn't know the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin's,
like it knows.
Have you noticed Kevin's nose is growing, Gio? It's like Pinocchio. I don't know what's going on there, Kevin. You're maybe tweet. No, but seriously, I agree with you. We're at the beginning of this, and I know that we'll talk about AI many more times on this podcast, but it does have its uses so far, and I was able to use it on occasion with some of the work that I did in the prep for the summit. But live launches to you, have you been involved in anything that you particularly learned some lessons? When you've been involved with live launches, is there anything that you can sort of advise generally based on your experience?
Well, one thing with live launches that can get very interesting very quickly is being able to, you get real-time feedback. So for example, if you're running something for the first time and you do your pre-work, you do your planning into the messaging and all of that, and then you have a chance to really see what people are responding to in real time. And so you can tweak the messaging as you go. And so sometimes, you've got to kind of be on hand to be like, oh, people are really responding to this. People really love this messaging. So let's change up the copy a little bit from, to add in this angle, because people are really responding well to this idea of, let's say, being able to do less marketing, being able to have more career success while doing less marketing. So let's, add in a couple more emails that are focused on that and dial back on this other part. So it's really an exciting opportunity if you can, you can pre-write the copy for a live launch, all the email copy and so on in the sales page. But then, you do have this unique opportunity to really tailor it live to what's happening in real time. And that, so there's a little bit of an adrenaline rush that goes along with live launches. And, and then, once you have it dialed in, you can, you can refresh it, you can tweak it for the next, when you're making it evergreen, you can tweak it to make it so that it's just super dialed in and you're appealing to exactly the kinds of clients that you want to be attracting.
I know that I was teetering on the verge of actually buying something called Deadline Funnel. Is that something you're aware of?
Deadline Funnel. So is that where you have a deadline to purchase the item, and then you can infuse that into your sales pages and your sales emails? Yeah, absolutely.
And I was, as in, but I think the whole idea, I didn't buy in the end because it just seemed, keep it simple, stupid sort of thing. And from my point of view, it seemed to have benefits in terms of an uplift in terms of, for instance, it was saying, well, look, you've got to this page now, you've got the next 20 minutes to make your mind up to actually sign up, sort of thing. It's that kind of idea. And the next 20 minutes you're going to have, I don't know, 30% off or something, and then that's gone. But for the regular person, just being there and trying to keep that going, it'd never work. So the idea is that I don't know how they do it exactly, but all to do with landing pages, presumably. The point is they would actually maintain that throughout the whole process. So you could have an offer time bound, and the beauty of those things is they tend to work quite well. I'm going to make my mind up, but I'll make it up next week. No, you won't. Here's 30% off. You're going to make it up in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, that kind of urgency can be a very powerful motivator. I've definitely experienced that myself when there's a disappearing discount, and puts the pressure on, can be very effective for sales. And the question is always, is there, when you're injecting some element of scarcity or urgency, is it a manufactured urgency, or is it a genuine urgency? And, making the copy have a lot of integrity from an ethical standpoint.
That to me, Gio, is the lovely thing about a live launch, that you have got that genuine urgency and possibly the genuine scarcity, that you can say, well, hang on, this is happening at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. And there are only 10 places or however many. And that will give you both the urgency to buy, and if it's 10 places, well, you'd expect a high price ticket. If it's more places, well, perhaps the price ticket isn't as high, but it still gives that sort of thing. Versus, you can see discounts to things, but sometimes that they're just not genuine. Like, if you recall Justin Noble that we had on many months ago as a guest. Well, one of his competitors, who's in the same sort of marketplace, 3D printing stuff and so on, he will have a flash sale and try to persuade people to buy. But those that have been on his mailing list for a little while know that he has a flash sale like this about every other week. Therefore, why would I ever now buy anything off him at full price?
Just, it's important to be judicious with those kinds of techniques because people do notice them. You think that you might think that people aren't paying attention, but they actually are.
Yeah, I think there's something about you in particular, and this is one of the reasons I really like you, is that basically you have that kind of like Blackpool rock. You've kind of got this, it's going right through you, this idea of authenticity, that you basically are, your clients love you because you basically somehow communicate really clearly. Now, in the context of a live launch, I would trust you to create copy which is completely in line with somebody's experience at that very moment. So basically, they're waiting for something. They've got an anticipation of something. They were brought to the event because of something, and somehow you get beneath the bonnet and you're able to sort of understand the kind of words that will really resonate with them. And is that really what your clients think about you? Because it seems to be.
I think so. I would like to think so. And that's the kind of feedback that I get, is that I can drum up excitement for the particular launch, really dial into the audience's hopes and dreams and, what they've tried before that's failed, the things that they don't want, the things that they do want, and then be able to motivate them from that point of view. Yeah. I think that there are some brands that are really able to create very successful launches without using some of these techniques because they've really dialed into the value proposition. And so that, whenever you have a sale, it's because the value of what you're offering is more than the asking price.
Right.
So, if you're able to show, some brands never have sales. For example, Tesla never has a Memorial Day sale or anything like that. They just, the price, and you can't haggle with them. The price is the price. And that's because they know that the value to the consumer is worth more than the asking price.
Yeah. Well, I know that. Got one outside. But it's, and it's lovely. And I love it.
Aren't you fancy?
Oh, well,
Teslas are fun to drive.
No, it's well, when you come to England, I'll meet you and we'll go for a drive in the Tesla Model Y, and wow, it just goes like, well, past. But
I have floored Teslas before.
Have you? Oh,
I have a fond memory of going to the dealership to test drive one with my friend, and we get into the car, and he says, okay, now floor it. And my friend kind of puts his foot on the gas and the car goes. And then the salesman says, no, you're doing it wrong. I said, floor it. Oh, wow. And so we actually floor it and experience it going from 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds or whatever it is. And
that's a different type of Tesla to the one I've got. I think mine's 9 seconds, but I mean, hey, that's fast enough. But the performance measure, the performance of the version is down at that level. Because if you think about it, Kevin, if you're at 0 and 2 or 3 seconds later you are at 60, that is flying. That's supercar level. So I love Elon Musk. I think he's a force for good, and thank goodness he's got his hands on Twitter. But we could get ourselves off on a tangent somewhere there. But nonetheless, I going back to live launches. So I guess up to a point, if you got a new client coming through the door, and they said, Gio, I really would like to do something that's special, and you start talking to them about live launches, what would be the biggest selling point that you would present for a live launch?
Well, I always think about the big picture in terms of what is being sold. So I like to kind of really dial down what the big picture mission is, what the promise of the launch is. So that's one of the things that I can help my clients with, is to be able to really see what's at stake here. And, it might not be a coaching certification. It might be changing the way that the world eats. And that's the big believable promise that you're offering to your audience.
Right.
Because that's going to be more, once you can speak to that high level change, then you can motivate people from that aspirational standpoint, and, really show them what's possible that's bigger than themselves. So I think that people like to bring me in because we're really thinking outside of just the day-to-day benefits, the regular benefits that somebody's going to get from it, and really thinking about the super benefits.
Do you think that's in your situation? Have you trained yourself to be super level, a super level copywriter thinker? Because presumably most copywriters don't allow themselves to get to that level, I guess. I'm not saying they don't have the capability, but I think the idea is that this isn't the first time I've heard this from you, but you seem to have that ability to rise to a level that really motivates people. I'm maybe not making myself clear here, but there is something about what you do that communicates at that supra level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's always going to, when you're thinking about how, there's some brands that rely on sales all the time, and that's the draw for them, is the sale, the sale, the sale. And if they stop doing the sale, then they go out of business.
Yeah.
The brands that really have staying power, for example, like Apple, they really speak to that high level dream that people have. They're able to really tap into this universal desire and motivation to think differently.
Yeah.
That's one of the classic Apple advertisements. 1,000 songs in your pocket versus, being able to, listen to your favorite music, kind of coming up with an innovative idea that people can latch onto.
Is it something about the people that you live around and eat in the same restaurants of? They basically, they work in the sort of general area of this idea of these big tech companies that have dominated the world for a long while, and Apple and Facebook and all those types of people. They've come into this world and they have much bigger dreams almost, and there's a whole bunch of them that we've probably not heard of yet. And basically, these people live in your area. They live down your street, and that it must infuse this sort of level of belief in the how you can improve the human condition.
It's really interesting driving through San Francisco and on the freeway and seeing all the billboard advertisements. So instead of an advertisement for sunglasses or, Banana Republic clothing, they have advertisements. All the advertisements are for data, AI, or APIs. So, you're really speaking to a certain level of person. They know that there's so many people in San Francisco who are thinking on this level that it's actually worth it for them to have these billboards on the freeway.
Wow.
As opposed to consumer goods.
There's a lot about California that horrifies me. The last time I went to San Francisco, it's an absolutely beautiful city. Really was a beautiful city. I know it's got its problems, but now it's got all kinds of, I don't know, people living in tents and stuff like that, and you just think, goodness, it's changed completely. I'm not saying that these people don't deserve to have. I'm just thinking that the actual city itself seems to have changed a bit. And I don't know, maybe you don't see it that way.
I think that's a big part of the conversation about San Francisco, is the fact that, it's become so expensive that only the people who are making you can't afford to live on $100,000 in San Francisco anymore. It's, only available to people who are making mid six figures. Wow. And it's driven out a lot of the artistic community. I have a lot of friends who, have the people who lived in San Francisco for many years and starting in the 80s or the 90s, and they've been priced out of San Francisco and they've had to move further and further into the suburbs. So the cost to that is a loss of creativity, the sort of weirdness that came up in the 60s and 70s of San Francisco that gave it a lot of that personality. And then, of course, you're absolutely right. There is that juxtaposition of massive wealth, for example, the Twitter headquarters. And then, you turn the corner and there's tent cities, people who are unable to, have viable housing and a lot of drug problems. And so there's a really big contradiction in that wealth gap there. It's sad, and there haven't really been viable solutions that the government has come up with.
I don't know about you, Kevin, but if somebody could actually write the copy to solve that problem, I think we're talking to Gio. She could do this, couldn't you? Couldn't you do this?
Of course, Gio could write the copy to solve the problem.
But isn't that
politicians to do some stuff instead, though, Graham?
Oh well, they don't do anything, do they? Apart from get in the way. But the truth of it is that you have this. I mean, if you look at your website, and if anybody's interested in Gio, her name's Gio Marcus, geomarcus.com, and you can go on there, and it's a brilliant website. I mean, and you look at one of the people called Summerbox said about you, when I started working with Gio, my business took off. Now, I mean, she might not have. I mean, I don't know when you started to work with her. It might have been the second day that she started, but the chances are she'd been going along a bit, and then all of a sudden you give it a real boost. And it's the sorts of things that we've talked about so far. This idea of being able to communicate at a sort of a deeper level with people that really gets to the core of their interests, almost their desires.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I've loved working with people like Summer is she was working with people that had digestive problems that, or they had all kinds of problems, but they were really focused in, sort of centered around their microbiome. And so there was a real chance to create a wave of health for people who were suffering and who weren't getting answers from traditional doctors. They tried lots of different things. And since the gut is responsible for so many different aspects of health, but they didn't really understand what was going on for them. So it was a real chance to be able to improve people's lives in a very tangible way. And so there was just a ton of satisfaction that came from that, and incredible testimonials that came from that we could then weave into the copy, future copy, and, get video testimonials and things like that. So that's one of the things that I've been fortunate to do, working with so many people in the health and wellness space, is to be able to, I've had my own health challenges in my life. So I understand the avatar. I understand, the hopes and dreams of somebody who isn't feeling well and who is looking for solutions and, doesn't want to go perhaps the mainstream route, but wants to heal themselves through food and nutrition and mindfulness techniques and, alternative practices, rather than just take a pill, which may or may not actually help them in the end.
Oh, well, as a diabetic, I take way too many pills, and I often, in my sessions with the doctor, when you get a chance to sit with the doctor, which of these can I get rid of? And it's that kind of well, we really need this one for this aspect, and you might need this one for this, and I don't have to get frustrated because I don't want to take them. I really don't. But for 20 odd years I've been doing that, and I don't know. Going back to the point of copy and live launches, one of the things that's in my mind is, where do you start? That blank piece of paper. I mean, AI might help.
Yes.
I guess.
If anytime you've got a blank sheet of paper, ask ChatGPT, Graham.
Yeah, okay, but sometimes, as Gio said, that you might have to have a pretty well written prompt. So somewhere you've got to start with your own thoughts. Or is there some technique that you use to get you, into the right kind of position so you can hit a decent shot?
Yeah, so I have a messaging process that I go through for each launch that really helps me to understand what's going on with people and what they want, what they don't want, what they've tried before that's failed, what embarrassing things are they putting up with? And, some of these questions, they don't make it into the copy, but it helps to inform my way of thinking about the product and the person. And so, from there, you can really dial in the messaging and come up with the creative ideas that are going to be the heartbeat of the launch. So,
is that process driven by the fact that you're dealing with a lot of health people, or is it actually a process that would work with any old person?
Yeah, it works with any type of industry. It can work for people, it can work for B2B. It can work for somebody who is opening up a luxury spa. It can work for somebody that's doing a coaching program for women. It's universal. These are copywriting foundations that, anybody has to understand in order to be able to write copy that speaks directly to the, the emotional core of the ideal client.
Yeah.
But Gio, do you ever get in that position where you've got a blank sheet of paper in front of you and the words just won't arrive on the piece of paper?
Yeah, it's happened. And, usually what I take that to mean is I don't have enough information. So then at that point, I would go back to the client and say, we need to have another conversation about this because I'm needing something that I don't have. For me, I'm coming in to an area sometimes that I don't have a lot of direct experience in. And so I'm relying on my client to provide me with information, and then I do my own research as well. But, a lot of times if I ever have writer's block, it's that I just don't have enough information. But sometimes I was writing a medical website, for example, recently, and just coming up with, not really feeling it. And what I had to do was go back to the client and ask them more clarifying questions. And then I can have enough information to be able to write what I need to write.
Just take yourself back into that situation when you went back in there. What was it specifically, not necessarily specifically, but what was it generally that you were short of understanding?
Well, I needed a little bit more information about the product and what set it apart in the marketplace, why it was different than anything else that was available. What were some of the drawbacks of the competition's products? So things like that, things that, looking really for the unique selling proposition of that particular product to be able to speak to it, to say, oh, this is why this is superior. This is why this is the obvious choice for somebody who is looking for this particular solution. Out of all the choices that they have, this is the ideal thing that they're going to want. You wouldn't want to do this without this product. So that was speaking to surgeons who were doing, very complex robot assisted surgeries. And,
Wow.
This is an area that was new to me. And so I needed to rely a little bit on my client to be able to provide me with the information to write intelligently to it.
Don't you find, though, when you're out with your friends, so what you've been doing today? Oh, well, I've been writing about robot-assisted surgeries. It's just another day.
Yeah.
and it's
talking points for dinner, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just fantastic. I mean, your breadth of understand. I mean, I know that your focus is on the sort of general, not entirely, but generally on health, or predominantly on health. But is there any other market that you would really like a crack at, because that it's been underserved?
Well, I really love writing about coaching, business coaching. I think that there's so many business coaches, and it's an opportunity to really, get really specific with what sets that business coach apart. And I'm always a fan of entrepreneurs. And so business coaching is this opportunity to help entrepreneurs grow. And that's very exciting for me. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I started when I was a kid. Whenever I could sell, I would go door to door selling gift wrap and greeting cards to people. And I had lemonade stands and, always looking for a way to, find that opportunity to solve a problem, to create joy. And so I love working with business coaches for that reason, because they're ultimately a very smart investment for any business owner who's looking to grow.
I just think you're like up there with the very, very best of them. It's a bit like having, a better looking Dan Kennedy on the show. I mean, that's my aim, really, to have somebody like Dan on. Oddly enough, I was listening to a little bit of the Dave D interview. I don't know if you know Dave, but basically Dave D was Dan Kennedy's oppo when they were working together at GKIC, and he kind of asked Dan lots of questions at these various interviews. We came onto our website, and Kevin will remember this, but after about 46 minutes, it is almost like, like a Tesla feeling when you put the foot down to the floor, and all of a sudden the car goes whoosh.
Yeah, we were just about to wrap the podcast up, weren't we, when Dave came out with the pure gold?
Yeah, it was like, how long have you got? And we both said at the same time, like, scripted, as long as you like. And then for the next sort of 15 minutes, it was pure gold. It just shared and shared and shared.
On psychological
and
fantastic.
I love Americans for being like that, for having that something. It is something entrepreneurial. And Kevin startled me last week. And you might have the answer to this, Gio, because last week he shared some stats about this podcast, been going for almost 8 years. And basically, Kevin looked at some recent stats that not even you knew, Kevin. And we were trying to look at who was actually listening. More than half of our audience are Americans. Why? So,
well, now that you have that data about who's listening to your podcast, that's brilliant, because you can market to those demographics in particular and to feed that. If you know what's working, then you can take advantage of having that data. And, as copywriters, that's important information to have. That's gold.
Well, we have thought, Gio, at some stage of doing a live launch. Probably not, it'll probably come up fairly soon, Kevin, based on the next 100 days. But Kevin's always wittering on, he is, and basically he's always wittering on about corporate escape stories. People who were in a cubicle and then decided that they'd go and do something better themselves. Might have a different income for a while, but basically they love their lives. Every day is a joy. And Kevin was sort of wondering how many people have been on our podcast that would help somebody in the transition from working for somebody else to working for themselves. Now, if that period happened to be, or the majority of it was 100 days or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, we could actually line up, say, 30 previous podcast guests, and some of those could actually talk to the element that they're brilliant at. And, we've got a brilliant copywriter on here, Kevin.
We have.
So you probably want to charge a fortune, though. I know that. But no, I just think that there is a real opportunity there. I don't know. Have you been on many live launches?
Oh, yes, definitely. I've done hundreds of live launches for my clients. And
but you've been on
appeared on them.
Have you appeared on them?
Oh, you mean for summits and things like that?
Yeah.
I have been on a handful of summits. Yes.
Yeah, still good though. Because once you've been on one, people like to have you back. But for you, yes. but you understand how it's done. So I think the trick, Kevin, would be to rustle up some money and pay Gio to do all this for us. let her do it, and to market to the west coast of America. Then we can
wait a minute, though, Graham. She's living in San Francisco. She's already told us that you can't live in San Francisco on $100,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a point.
Multi that. So I'm extrapolating from that what Gio's hourly fee must be.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's a good return on the investment for my clients. So, while you can get a copywriter from Upwork or Fiverr or some kind of service like that,
sure.
You're going to get a certain level of quality.
Yeah.
If you want somebody who has a track record of success, it's going to be a little bit more. I mean, you're dealing with custom work. Good copy takes time.
Yeah.
But for example, if you're selling a higher ticket program or product, something that is going to be evergreen, that you can have just basically sit there and make money for you, that you're going to be driving traffic to, then it's worth it.
Okay.
So it's not right for everyone. So if somebody's selling a low ticket product, like a $5.99 product or $27 product, that you have to have the right strategy in place. If we're working on something where there's you have a low ticket product or program that's feeding into a larger program, then it's going to be worth it. But if you're just selling a low ticket program, it might not be worth it to bring in a sort of bespoke copywriter to have them write it.
There's an interesting question though, Gio. You're by and large writing copy for very high ticket items. There's this thing about know, like, and trust, and certainly finding that to get a client to make their first purchase, quite often they will want to buy something small from you before they'll go and buy the something big. What's your experience of needing to do that? Is it true or is it not?
It really depends on the business, the avatar, and the offer. So, for example, someone who's a CEO and who doesn't have a lot of time, they're not going to really be enticed by a $27 product. They're going to they've got more expensive problems to solve. Yeah. And so they're going to want to purchase things that are, more expensive, that can solve those expensive problems. And their time is short. They don't want to mess around with, your tripwires and things like that.
No.
So it really depends. And that's why understanding, going into a sales, into a, going into a launch, you have to really understand who you're speaking to.
Yeah. A lot of your clients, by definition, they'll be selling high ticket products because basically they're hiring you for that. So effectively you might have some who are selling lots of smaller ticket, but either way, they're making lots of money. So the issue that you're bringing to them, though, is this level of, you don't get it in corporate often, do you? They're around their product day in, day out, but can they put words together that actually resonate with their audience? And that's why they need you. You're almost not dispassionate. Is that the right word?
Well, a lot of the time they're too close to the product, Graham, which a lot of the time means they understand what the features are rather than the benefits.
Very rare do companies have high-level copywriters on their staff. Probably the wrong thing to do anyway. You don't want to neuter somebody like that. You want them to experience lots of different scenarios so they can bring something new to you and apply. Kennedy talks about that, doesn't he? You effectively have one solution for one market that you apply in a different one. You're not the only person talking about that, but it's the same with copywriters, isn't it?
Well, I think that, you're absolutely right about being too close to the product. So that's absolutely a problem that I encounter with some clients. I come in and they're speaking a lot of jargon. They're really immersed in, saying the same things over and over again. Perhaps it's too cerebral and it's not tangible enough. There's not enough story. And that comes down to what is called the curse of knowledge, where somebody is too close to something, they've already, they've forgotten what it's like to not have gone on that discovery journey of learning why something would be beneficial to somebody who is coming in fresh, who doesn't have access to all of this information. So, for example, if you have somebody who has a PhD, well, they're experts in that particular subject. But, you're not speaking to somebody who has a PhD. You have to kind of remember what it's like to not have gone on that intellectual journey of understanding. So that's why sometimes having an outside copywriter come in who is going to be asking those questions, who has a fresh mind, who can, really empathize with the person that hasn't gone on that discovery journey, can be beneficial.
Yeah. And that person should be you. I'm a big fan. You know that I've said that several times. But I do genuinely at some stage in my life, I want to earn enough money so that I can afford to hire you. That will be wonderful. You might have to give mates rates for a little while, but but apart from
I would love to write for you. I also love writing about financial, I love like the business coaches who are like money coaches, things like that. Those are really fun things to write because I love helping people to get out of their current financial situation, get to a high, the next level. And so that would be really fun.
I really needed you on the Zoom this morning, but you would have been fast asleep because it was this morning in our time.
Yes.
But basically the opportunities with shall we say a financial business, and effectively they are looking to bring people into, and I'm fashioning it as almost like a club. So it's not about you spending money immediately, because I actually think that so many of their potential investors are not ready to do that. They might be, but that would be sort of 10% of them, but maybe a lot more would be attracted to the prospect of the same. And so I'm trying to work out a way in which I can get across that idea to those clients, to those potential sign-ups for this club thing that we're thinking about doing. So it's almost like bringing people into an environment where they could be subject to the opportunity, but in the future. So it's an interesting. It was something that the client sort of led with, but I kind of like the idea. It was slightly less onerous in the sense of, I want everybody to spend 50,000 quid on whatever it is. They might want to do that, but then many more won't. They might want to sort of be gradually brought into an environment where they don't kind of know these people. So there's almost a sort of a getting to know people phase as well. So
that's a really lovely opportunity to offer people, as a chance to get educated. Education, that's a really powerful currency when you can share knowledge and give people the option to get warmed up to these ideas. And then they're much more, you're building up that know, like, and trust factor that Kevin spoke about earlier. Yeah. So I think that's beautiful, and not like having like a lot of pressure to buy a certain thing, but letting people make informed choices for themselves.
Wow. I wanted to thank you massively, because not only have you come onto the podcast, but you've recommended one of your network to come along and join us as well. Yes. I don't think she's from California, though, is she? She's not from your neck of the woods.
No, and actually I don't remember where she lives, but she's a real fire starter. So I'm excited to listen to that interview with her.
Maybe, I don't know why I want to say Arizona, but I don't think it is Arizona. But anyway, the point is, it's somewhere else. We have had a guest from Arizona. We had a brilliant dentist who I met in Orlando. I went to one of these Russell Brunson things and met him there. I just thought he was so clever. And he was. Do you remember
dentist? I remember. He was brilliant.
He was absolutely. He'd never done a podcast, but he was brilliant. Marketing wise, streets ahead, But anyway, we could go on about this, and I'm sure people who are interested in that, I'll put a link to in the show notes, because you will not be disappointed by his marketing prowess. Live next to your audience, particularly if they want dental treatment. But right.
So, Graham, we've once again found out the power of good copy.
Yeah.
Good copy applied to a live launch.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that some of these things, that summits, live launches, etc., have almost come together as a series. I suppose quite intentional, but not quite. It was interesting that when I sort of had that conversation with Gio actually on LinkedIn, she mentioned live launches. I was just like, yeah, absolutely, it's a thing that we're doing, and knowing her prowess with copy. We learned quite a few things there.
And we're both doing it in live launches are an ongoing feature of our Grow CFO business, where we're running more and more boot camps and cohorts to take people through products. And the power of those is that, you've got a finite start date, which you're marketing up to, and you've got always a limited number of seats to sell.
Well,
and it's genuine.
No, I think all of that is, and I mean, Grow CFO is it hurtles you and Dan into this area of being an authority. We've talked about that before on the podcast, but I think you are naturally authoritative because of the way in which you're sharing knowledge, and you heard what Gio just said about that, and it really is. It's like catnip to people. It draws them to you. And I think that's something that you should be congratulated, because between you and Dan, you've done an amazing, and there's other people around you, but you've done an amazing job at creating a brand for a particular stream of people. And in the same way, I'm trying to do something similar for investors. But there's a big market out there who advise in that area, and you don't. I'm not advising anyone to do this. You can't do, because it's not my thing. But what I want to be able to do in a live launch is bring together some informed people where you can make more. You can understand the thing.
And your gift here is that you're curating a portfolio of things and making people aware of them.
Doesn't that make you more informed as well?
Yes.
I mean, Gio said that herself, in the sense that when that blank piece of, or it wasn't quite community, that website wasn't quite getting itself written. Gio needed more information. Okay. And I think that's the challenge, that sometimes that extra bit of information that you're getting from guests really does expand your overall knowledge. And in my knowledge of alternative investments has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
There'll be people out there who know more than me, and I'm not denying that at all. But my knowledge, and therefore, if I'm almost like the avatar for my own summit, then obviously the people experienced in that live launch or the summit, hopefully will get the benefits that hopefully are there for them.
And this is it, doing anything like this, whether it's writing the copy or putting the event together, you are on such an incredible learning journey. And the amount that I've learned about, we're putting boot camps on, but they're taking place over Zoom. My experience of doing that sort of thing has been running workshops face-to-face with people in a physical room.
Yeah.
The amount that you then learn about how do you make something that would have worked in person work when everybody's in separate locations on screen. You can't just all stand around a big sheet of brown paper with post-it notes anymore, or a big whiteboard and scribble things down. The techniques you've got to learn are different. The learning opportunities are huge.
Yeah, it's almost like 10 years ago, had I picked this up as a methodology, it would have been pretty much the start of ClickFunnels, probably maybe even predates them a bit, but basically about the start of that. So some of the facilities were around then, but I'd have been 10 years younger. And the learning that comes with this, it comes with it's a bit like a big book that you got to learn, and it's got lots of different chapters in it, and even down to the simplest of things. You still have to get your head around it. But copywriting is one of those things that, it takes a lot of practice to get anywhere good. But Gio Marcus starts at a kind of like Champions League level anyway. So you're buying into somebody who's making big brands work better. Now that doesn't have to speak well for anybody who's a client of Gio Marcus. So on that note, Kevin, it's been another brilliant podcast, this time with Gio Marcus, Mark 2. And I've been Graham Arrowsmith.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Sorry.